This is RutgersAl, coming to you live from RutgersAl Studios in New Jersey. If you think I'm going to be a shrinking violet in the face of a Rutgers loss, you can guess again. I still think we have great talent, I still think we have a great team, I still think we have great coaches, and I'm very much looking forward to the rest of the season and to our team proving the doubters wrong. I've gotten a lot of requests from people wanting to know what I look like. Well, I'm not ready to share my looks with the rest of the world. Just think of me as the Wizard of Oz, heard but not seen. The reason for this message to you is to talk about the Rutgers-Cincinnati game. My hat is off to Cincinnati. That was as dominating a performance as I've ever seen by an opponent who came into Rutgers Stadium. They outcoached us, they out-executed us, and in the end, they outplayed us and were deserving victors. As for Rutgers, we're a team with excellent talent that simply did not play anywhere near its potential. Even now, I would put our talent up against any other team in the country. I was trying to remember when a talented team like Rutgers got blasted like that. I'm sure there are numerous examples in college, but the most prominent example that sticks in my mind was the 1985 game between the Chicago Bears and Miami Dolphins. Now, I'm not about to suggest that Rutgers is the 1985 Chicago Bears. That's because we're USC of the East. But what I'm saying is that our style, once we properly develop it, will eventually be close to that of the 1985 Chicago Bears. We've got the talent to have a great defense. We have the talent to have a great offensive line. We've got running backs so good, I've got to call them superbacks. And we've got quarterbacks good enough to manage the game and bring home the W. Just like the Miami team of that year, Cincinnati has a great quarterback, great coaching, great offensive line, great receivers, an adequate running game, and an adequate defense. But none of that mattered when Chicago played Miami in 1985. Chicago headed into Miami with a 12-game winning streak and had outscored its previous three opponents by 104-3 margin. But Don Shula had a great game plan and a great quarterback in Dan Marino and kept Chicago off balance with its short passing game and successfully took shots downfield once in a while. It's important to note that Miami's offensive line played great too, as their receivers. Similarly, Cincy coach Brian Kelly came into the game with a great game plan, devoting resources to limit our running game, kept our defense off balance with the short passing game, and his team pretty much controlled the game from its onset. His quarterback, Tony Pike, provided a Heisman-caliber performance, completing 24 of 34 passes for 362 yards, 3 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. I felt like Pike was in the zone Monday, and in fact Tony Pike had a better game Monday than Dan Marino did against the Bears. Marino completed 14 of 27 passes for 270 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Cincy's short passing game replaced its running game, and while Cincy's receivers were running open with regularity, it was up to them to execute, which they did with great proficiency. They pretty much dinged and dunked us to death. As for Rutgers, I'm sure that we'll develop the confidence these next 2 games against Howard and FIU to be successful the balance of the season. There are mitigating circumstances which might explain our poor performance. We had offensive and defensive co-coordinators who were playing those roles for the first time at Rutgers. Our 2 quarterbacks who saw the bulk of the action, Tom Savage and Dom Natale, also saw their first real action, although Natale has seen spot duty before. I also think our team suffered from Game 1 syndrome. That's where talented teams play badly due to the long layoff from the previous season. Too bad there are no preseason games. In my preview, I said that our success would be largely dependent on how our offensive line played. They didn't play anywhere close to their potential. But by the time we roll up to Maryland, I'm sure they'll be giving us reasons to once again believe that they truly are a top 10 offensive line, as many experts believe. As long as the offensive line rebounds, Rutgers will rebound. And I'm very confident that will happen, as we have one of the best offensive line coaches in the country in Coach Flood. I thought J-Train Joe Martinick played very well, considering what he had to work with, which is not a heck of a lot, and I'm amazed at his production. He was like a magician, making something out of nothing. He had 55 yards on just 15 carries, good for a 3.6 yard per carry average. Martinick has the potential to be a 1,000-yard plus back, just like Ray Rice. I thought receivers Tim Brown and Mohamed Sanu played extremely well. Sanu had 101 yards on 10 catches and looked like a college football all-star, just as some of us expected he would. Tim Brown was open much of the game and had 86 yards on 7 catches. I was disappointed to see that Mark Harrison didn't get a chance to play. He is a big receiver, 6 foot 3 inches, and in the tape I saw of him, he reminds me of Kenny Britt. He is a guy whom I think can be very productive in our offense because he's big, has good hands, and he can jump. Shamar Graves also played well, collecting a touchdown catch. Defensively, we struggled, but Joe LaFege had a particularly good game, collecting 9 tackles, and I was particularly impressed with a pass breakup that Brandon Bing had, as well as an impressive interception that Alex Silvestro had. That right there I felt was the turning point of the game. Cincy's turnover came when the game was tied, yet Rutgers was unable to capitalize. From there, Cincy took control of the game and never looked back. I like to look at the football season as one final exam with 12 questions. We flubbed question number 1, and that's all it is, one game. In December, when we're toasting yet another successful season with the carafe of victory champagne, this loss will be but of distant memory. I feel confident in our prospects in our remaining games, because our offensive line, which returned all 5 starters, has played much better in the past, and I'm sure Coach Flood will restore them to their previous performance level. Their expected improved performance will allow Joe Martinick to carry this team on his broad shoulders. I liked what I saw out of him, and think he will be a very productive back for us. This will make it easier for Tom Savage to flourish. All he has to do is manage the game and avoid mistakes. The defense simply ran into a great quarterback and a brilliant offensive mind in Brian Kelly. I'm confident we'll look much better going forward, as there are no more Tony Pikes or Brian Kellys on our schedule. Now our team can forget the high expectations for now and just go out and play and have fun. We're a good team that played badly Monday, and I'm looking forward to our improved performance the balance of the season. Thank you.